If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we are back. Welcome to another edition of Survival Dispatch News. For those joining us for the first time, this is where we cut through the noise and deliver information that matters to folks who value their faith, family, and freedom. In a world where the legacy media constantly pushes narratives designed to undermine our traditional values and constitutional rights, we remain committed to bringing you the unfiltered truth that helps you protect what matters most. As always, we approach today's topics through the lens of self-reliance, preparedness, and the timeless principles that made America the greatest nation on earth. Whether you're tuning in from the heartland or the coast, know that you're among friends here who share your commitment to preserving our God-given liberties for future generations. I'm Chris Heaven, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, and your host for this evening's very important episode, where we'll be exploring a case that perfectly illustrates why our Second Amendment rights remain absolutely critical in today's increasingly unpredictable society. Joined by my co-host, John Wheaton, who brings his usual sharp insights to the table. Good to see you, John.
Yeah, you too, brother. It's been a minute since we've done one of these together.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it hasn't been that long since we saw it.
Yes, true. But doing a show, yeah, so...
And we'll see you again on Monday night. So
yep.
I'm going to bring everybody else on stage now, and we'll kick this thing off. So beside me here is Mr. Shannon Ritch, the MMA fighter with the most fights who's still living. That who's still living thing keeps tripping me up. How are you doing, Shannon?
I'm good, man. How you doing? MMA. I have more fights than any living fighter in the world.
That's a better way of saying it for sure.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, give our audience the 60-second elevator on Shannon Ritch.
Shannon the Cannon wears a lot of hats. You know, he's 8-time MMA world champion, has more MMA fights than any living fighter in the world. He's 26-3 with bare knuckle boxing. He's a current BKFC heavyweight world champion. I've got 32 belts, 8 world titles, from pro wrestling to being an actor. I mean, ex-military. I was a contractor in Iraq. You know, pretty much I've done everything. I throw a lot of shit on the wall, hoping it's going to stick.
It's absolutely amazing, Shannon. We've got John's partner in crime, Dave Kemp, back. Good to see you, Dave.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks, guys.
It feels like I haven't seen you since SHOT Show.
I know. John said it's been a while, but it's really been a while.
It actually
has.
And our good friend James from Pilgrim Ammo, our favorite Australian. Good to see you, James. So let's kick this thing off right away with the incident that happened, Shannon. So I don't want to paraphrase anything. I'd rather that you describe the shooting that you were involved in.
Yeah, man. I pretty much a wild and crazy night. Not really. We just went out to Twin Peaks here in Phoenix, Arizona, watching the UFC, watching the fights. I'm settling up with the manager because what I do is I host a UFC watch party. I bring people in to watch the fights. And, people are clearing out. So the whole parking lot's full, probably about 100 people in the parking lot. And long about that time, I go out to my car, and there were several people behind my vehicle. I got in, I started it, beat my horn twice. I tried to back up. There were too many people there. They wouldn't let me out. So I put it in park, opened the door, kept the door open, walked around the back of my vehicle. And there was a small group, about 10 people. And I said, hey, guys, I'm moving. I'm trying to get out. Can you let me out? And immediately there was a Hispanic gentleman who gave me the F you this, F you that. Could tell he's been drinking for sure. I'm like, hey, man, I got no problem. Why are you F-Uing me? Long about that time, he pulled out a knife and started chasing me around my vehicle. I don't even know how many times, 3-4 times at least. I knew I had to get to my door because that's where I had my pistol. in Arizona, you can't carry a weapon into a bar, so I left it outside. Reached in, grabbed the pistol, pulled it to my chest, to my working area, and I said, hey, you need to stop. He kept coming. He's engaging me. I kept backing up. I backed up 30 yards, still giving him the commands. Please stop. Don't, drop the knife. I don't want to shoot you. He kept coming at me. Therefore, I pointed it at him, and I'm serious. I'm like, dude, you need to stop. I don't want to shoot you. His friends were telling him to put the knife down. Everybody's screaming at him to put the knife down. And he was like, shoot me, bro, shoot me. And I did not want to shoot him. So I kept backing up. I backed up pretty much as far as I could back up. He lunged at me. I took one shot, and I struck him, and he fell to his death. Immediately called 911, let him know what was going on. I felt horrible. I mean, guys, I'm not here to brag about what I did. It was a heart-wrenching decision that I'm gonna have to live with for the rest of my life. It was Father's Day weekend. The next day was Father's Day. This was Saturday night. So I imagine, the call that his father got saying, hey, your son got killed, his mom, it just impacts everybody, his friends, his family, my friends, my family, everybody involved, the witnesses that were there. And thank God there were witnesses. There was 100 people in the parking lot, and there was camera video footage. And it's not a commercial, or it's not I don't know. I'm not trying to advertise pretty much the ammo that I use. I use Pilgrim Ammunition, which James is the CEO of. But thank God that's the round I had in my gun, because that round is 100% does not overpenetrate. Thank God that when I did fire my weapon, it didn't go through him and into a bystander. So thank God for that. The police took me into custody. They did a great job of investigating it. They got witness testimony. They got surveillance video. They got my statement. That night they let me go. They said it was a clear case of self-defense, but it did have to go to the DA. District attorney said, yeah, it was a clear case of self-defense. You did a great job. You're free to go. No charges. Everything's good to go now. Got my gun back. Everything is good. Come to find out, this guy's had 3 prior convictions of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon using a knife. 2 of them were disfigurement with a female. So 100%, this kid was gonna stab me. He was gonna cause bodily harm or kill me.
That's just insane.
Hopefully, I gave you a rundown of pretty much what happened. Again, I'm not here to brag about it or anything. It's nothing to brag about. First of all, it's heart-wrenching and something that you got to live with for the rest of your life. But thank God I've had the training besides the military, but I'm out on my own. I train with Sheriff Lamb. We're out at the range quite a bit. Training is what saved my life, and I can't express training enough. You got to go out and train with your weapon. You got to know what your weapon can do, and you got to believe in that round and know what that round's going. Because as soon as you shoot it, that round, you're responsible for that round.
Yeah, what's the adage? There's a lawyer attached to every bullet that you shoot.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Something along those lines. I want to make one quick point. I want to go to Dave, because Dave's a law enforcement officer for decades and SWAT team leader. But for our audience, you have a guy who has the most MMA fights under his belt and still ended up having to resort to using deadly force. And as you heard, not something that he wanted to do. And he's got a ton of training. So you've heard us say over and over again, human beings don't rise to the occasion, they fall to their training. And it's great that Shannon backed that up. Sounds like we got an emergency broadcast going on.
If
there.
our power goes out.
We got storms coming through in Southern Illinois right now. So, yeah.
Right on.
So let me start.
I'm going to pass it over to Dave first, actually, since he's been in these types of situations.
Man, I've got so first of all, Shannon, awesome job. I appreciate what you did out there, because not only did you save your life, but you could have saved other people's lives. You could have saved the life of somebody in the future.
I saved somebody's life, because if it wasn't me, it was going to be somebody else. And, thank God it was me, because I had the training, I had the weapon, and I could handle the situation that needed to be handled. My trainer was with me, 76 years old. What if it would have been him? He would have got stabbed that night. So
here's the first thing that comes to my mind is that, us as concealed carry holders, You know, we're not out there trying to just hunt people down and see if we can get into shooting. We're trying to get out of it.
You never want to do that. Absolutely.
And people like you, I think, my gosh, if you look at all of the second chances you gave this guy, you know, of walking around your car 3 or 4 times, backing up. And I don't know what the law is exactly out there where you're at, but in, you know, a lot of states, you don't necessarily have to. You can quote unquote stand your ground if you're
Arizona's a stand your ground state. Also in the academy, you know, they teach you this 21-foot rule. Somebody has a knife 21 feet, you do not let them get closer to that because it's too late at that point. This guy was 2 feet in front of me. It was, I gave him every opportunity. I did not. I mean, God dang, I did not want to shoot this kid.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is sometimes all of us have some of us have 2 sides. We got the nice guy side, and then we have the savage side that can rise up if we need it. But sometimes we're so hesitant, like, man, I do not want to have to shoot this guy. And when you start to think that way, what's happening is you're giving this person the benefit of the doubt. You are, and here's the rule I learned in my law enforcement career: when somebody's trying to take advantage of you, it never pays to be the nice guy. We hope that we can give this guy a second chance and it will work out. And I bet if you knew his violent history ahead of time, like you recognize this dude from the news, like, hey, that's that guy that stabbed 3 people before, you probably wouldn't have given him so many second chances. But, you know, we do that as humans. And a lot of times people aren't as lucky as you. And the thing about somebody with a knife is you know, it worked out great for you. 1 shot, the guy went down. There's videos, and you all have seen them, where people get shot 7, 8, 9 times. Their heart gets hit and blown up, and they're still running around, and a knife doesn't malfunction.
Yep.
And that's why that 21-foot distance is, it's not, I don't know if I would call it a rule anymore, but it's a distance that, man, it cannot get any riskier than that, because even if you deliver fatal wounds to this person, there's still maybe a 5 or 10 second window where they can run, stab you, and keep injuring you.
And, so knives are bad. You know, you said they don't malfunction. And plus, if you get in a knife fight, you're getting cut, and it's just one little cut can kill you. So
the statistic that I'm aware of, and this came from the Port Orange Police Department here in Florida, they said that when you have somebody running at you with a knife and there's force behind it, if you get stabbed once, you have a 50% chance of surviving that type of knife attack. If you get stabbed 2 or more times, it drops to 5% chance. And you might not even bleed out, like the cop said. If they get you in the gut and you end up going septic, you know, it kills you 24 hours, 36 hours later.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm in my basement. There's a tornado siren going off. I'm going to look out the window real quick, like I probably shouldn't do, but I'll let you guys keep cruising. I'll be back in a second.
All right. Thanks, Dave. So, Shannon, quick question. When I was talking to James a while ago, he mentioned something to the effect that when the guy fell to the ground, I mean, you knew there was no exit wound, like the bullet didn't go and hit something else, but there wasn't a mark on the back of his neck. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. There was no exit wound. The bullet did exactly what it was made to do. No exit wound. And you know, again, you know, I've shot that round, I don't know, 1,000 times at least, and you know, shooting it in the gel blocks, everything. It goes in 3 inches and starts to disintegrate. So I mean, that to me is the best home defense law enforcement round, everyday carry round that anybody can use. I know, James, I'm giving you a commercial, but it really is the best round to get. Pilgrim Ammunition geez, man, it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Well, James and I have been friends for a few years, and the very first time I saw what the ammo did to a ballistic dummy, I was sold on it myself.
Yeah, 100%.
Funny thing is Shannon, when I loaded my wife's EDC gun for her and went and took it back to her, and she said, "It's not loaded." I said, "Yes, it is." She said, "No, it's not."
No, it's because it's too light. Yeah.
I said, "Go ahead and drop the magazine." She couldn't believe it. So it's another really big benefit.
Yeah.
James, since we're on the topic of your ammunition right now, and you did all the technical stuff behind it, give our audience the high level overview of the performance characteristics of your projectile.
All right. Well, super light to start with. Okay. And round, and the way that we've got it loaded, it's moving super fast. So basic physics, light around, moving with more velocity. You're going to get less muzzle flip. Okay. less muzzle flip, more accuracy. Not that, Shannon would have had to be more accurate at 2 feet. But moving at that speed when it's hitting a soft target like that, as Shannon said, it starts to break up into an unconventional starburst pattern. And the thing that was even surprising from us, Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but you got him in the trachea, you got him in the throat, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we didn't have anything out the back of the guy's neck, and look, you got to, no one's here to celebrate something like this. We're more celebrating that Shannon's still here because there's a high chance he could have not been. We're not celebrating, taking somebody out, but getting hit in that area and the characteristics of the round breaking up like that and just shredding it, I imagine, Shannon, that would have been quite bad because his whole throat would have been ripped apart. There would have been not a chance at even trying to administer first aid, keep him put together. He just would have been drowning in his own blood. So all of the things that we've been trying to really promote, the light carry, super fast, less conditions for the shooter, like with muzzle flip and things like that, but that zero over penetration has all been proven here. Sad story, but I mean, it does prove that it does work as advertised.
Yeah, well said. I've got a quick question for you, Shannon, and I'm going to turn it over to John. So I noticed that there's quite a few articles out there that say that this was a fight over a parking space, and that just wasn't the case.
No. They the reporter came out and they said it was in the parking lot due to there was a parking space dispute. That was incorrect. I was trying to back out. They weren't letting me. And when I got out of the car to go back and talk to them, hey, can you guys let me out? That's when it all started. It wasn't over a space, not at all.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that so that anybody who reads the links knows the true story. So, John, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're here, brother. That you made it through, because there's people that get into these situations that don't make it through because they're not prepared for it. They haven't trained. They haven't put themselves through any kind of stress inoculation to understand how to handle situations where, your heart goes from resting to insane levels when somebody comes at you with a knife. And if you're not ready for that, you run the risk of not surviving the altercation or the incident. So what was really going through your mind as you were dealing with this in the moment? I mean, did you realize immediately that this was just a severe threat, or did it take you a minute to kind of realize how this was such a life and death situation? Did we lose him?
We've lost him.
I was going to say he looked like he was froze up there for a second. So while he's getting, I'm sure he'll be right back. But while we're waiting on him to get back, I just wanted to point out to people that there's a Wikipedia page on Shannon. It goes through all of the things like the fights. I think it's like 150, 160 pro MMA fights. So, I mean, that's just incredible. And not joking, I was actually going to ask him, and you guys may have noticed this as well, I was going to ask him how come his nose isn't all twisted up and he doesn't have cauliflower ears.
Wait till you get in front of him, mate. It is quite the beak. He's been through it. He's been through it. I mean, Shannon's got hands and the skin on his face is like leather. I mean, he looks at, that's one of the things that really surprised me about the whole situation. Like, why on earth would anybody want to challenge Shannon to a fight? Like, that's just ridiculous.
You have to assume that the guy was seriously inebriated, right? I mean, I don't know how else to answer that, but I agree with you. Like, we're not here to celebrate somebody losing their life. Glad that Shannon's here. We had a quick chat before we went live, and Shannon was mentioning how he let this guy get within 2 feet, which is just incredible. Welcome back, Shannon. Can you hear us, Shannon? Shannon, can you hear us?
Shannon, you got ears? You got ears?
Can you hear us? Shannon, can you hear us? Bueller. Oh, he's on mute.
He's on mute. Unmute it, Shannon. You got to unmute it, brother.
Yeah, can you hear us, Shannon? Oh. So while Shannon's getting his audio squared away, what I was going to say is before we went live, we were talking backstage.
Yep.
Shannon mentioned how he let this guy get to within 2 feet of him. And Dave Kemp made a really good point that many times when that happens, the person doesn't die instantly and keeps coming at you and stabs you multiple times, or if they have a gun, shoots you multiple times. I mean, how many times have we heard people say, James, that were on the front lines in the sandbox, that they shot up the bad guys with 5.56 rounds that are moving so fast, they were flying through the people, and if they didn't hit an organ, that the guys would just keep coming at them. They're all jacked up on opiates and Lord knows what else.
Well, yeah, and adrenaline as well, mate. But I mean, just going back to Shannon's situation while he's getting his audio sorted out, you know, I've seen the wrong end of a knife a couple of times, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, particularly around the gut area. So, I mean, yeah, it's just, yeah, we keep on repeating that we're not celebrating, you know, somebody, you know, going to the grave, but I'm glad that my mate's still around. Shannon, You got a lovely background. Can you hear us now, mate?
Shannon, can you hear us? Bueller. Shannon, can you hear us? Just another anecdotal example while we get Shannon gets his audio figured out there. Right. There was an incident in Port Orange, Florida again. And the only reason I know that's because I knew an officer there. And they had an undercover guy who was embedded with a motorcycle club. Right. And he was a, drug guy. And he had backup within several blocks of him. Right. And somebody from this bike club recognized that he had a wire on. And so he ripped the shirt off. He's got a wire on. He had a pistol in an ankle holster, but he went into condition black. He didn't pull the pistol and defend himself. Right. And one of the guys there had a pocket knife that had a 2.5-inch blade on it. And I saw the pictures of this. It was horrific. His shirt's off, and this guy's slicing and dicing him across the back like a ham coming out of the oven sort of thing. And so he didn't take any direct penetrations like this. It was all slashes. He ended up dying from a 2.5-inch blade. So yeah, it's definitely not unheard of. All right, so I think we've got Shannon.
All right. For some reason, I couldn't hear you guys.
Okay, we got you, Shannon.
I got you now, mate. I can hear you.
Yeah, my phone overheated out here in Arizona. It's only 105 degrees,
Only that's too funny. Last time we were out there, Shannon, with our mutual friend Mark Lamb at Front Site. What's it called now?
Yeah.
Golly, I mean, not a lick of wind. We're used to the heat here in the Southeast, but nothing. We don't have 120-degree days down here like you guys do. That's
122 sometimes.
Yeah, that's too much. So before you lost your connection there, Shannon, I was mentioning to our audience that we had a brief discussion backstage before we went live, and you let this guy get to within 2 feet. Yeah. And you're a professional in this stuff, not just MMA, but you also have a company that provides security services. And again, you worked with Blackwater, et cetera. Yeah. I mean, that's such incredible restraint. I can't see how anybody would say that you acted out of line, but I would like to make the point that all the people out there who are anti-guns, what happens to Shannon Cannon that night if you didn't have a firearm at your disposal?
I would have been cut and or killed, 100%. Yeah. I honestly feel like he would have killed me because he was trained with a knife. He's used it before, and he was looking for that way to. He was ready to use his knife.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that you had a succinct answer. It's truly a black and white situation. And, I'm sorry that you had to go through this. But by the same token, I'm glad that you made it out alive. It's a powerful lesson for other people, I think, that we were also discussing. I'll have a quick look for it, the incident in Lumberton, South Carolina last year, where the guy's F-350 is being carjacked. The Good Samaritan is 5 feet away. The door is open, pulls his gun, takes 5 shots at the driver, and he missed all 5 shots.
Yep.
I mean, and then the guy backed up and came forward and ran over him and killed the Good Samaritan. But I don't think people realize just what the stress does. So myself, Shannon, just quick aside here. So I put around 1,000 rounds per week downrange. That could be a combination of 300 blackout, 22 LR because I'm training with suppressed stuff in my backyard. But it could also be like kinetic rounds from something like Unit Solutions and that sort of stuff. So what I do is I'll run, I'll do an exercise. My watch will say my heart rate's whatever, 130, 140 beats per minute, shoot some rounds. And I do that as best as I can to simulate stress inoculation. But you've been through the stress inoculation in the real world. Just out of curiosity, like, do you have any idea what your heart rate was while this thing was going on?
I want to say it was elevated, but I'm pretty good at managing my stress. Those kind of situations, I try to stay very calm. It's all about breathing and going back to just training. I always work from here. This is my workstation, and I'm right here. And then if you do it 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 100,000 times, it's muscle memory. So really just going off of training.
Just jump in and ask a question, and this is something I haven't asked you yet, if that's all right, Chris.
Yeah.
Shannon, you roll in country. The fact that this is in Civvy Street, but like when you're rolling in country, you're prepared for it all the time, and you're always on edge. But in Civvy Street, that's
the thing. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. When you're downrange and you're in that situation in the war zone, you're in heightened security at all times. You're up, you're ready to go. This is a civilian world. I was coming out after watching UFC fights, just going in my car to go home. I'm not a drinker, so I don't drink. There was no, there was nothing to mess up with my brain. It was just a calm night, and then all of a sudden, boom! It just changed in a second. And that's you got to stay calm. And actually, he was running around my car a couple of times. That elevated my heart rate. So. Yeah.
Did I read correctly, Shannon, that you've never drank or smoked?
Correct.
Yeah, that's awesome. Welcome back, Dave. We were just discussing. Shannon had an internet connectivity. We were just discussing how, even with all of Shannon's training, he still let that guy get within 2 feet. And your point with regards to at 2 feet, if it's not a kill shot, you're getting stabbed or you're getting shot if the other guy, has a weapon. Just curious, Dave, when you're training guys on SWAT teams and stuff like that, what's the protocol when somebody's aggressive and coming towards those SWAT guys? How far away or how close do they let them get?
It's probably, and we talk about that 21-foot distance, and sometimes, it's all, based on the context of the situation. It could be even farther than that. 21 is kind of like this arbitrary number that Dennis Tueller came up with to start doing these tests of how close somebody could get to you before you could draw a gun and shoot. But especially we want to start thinking about what's the environment we're in. Is this a high risk scenario? Like, I got this group of people behind my car, they're not moving, they're not really threatening you ahead of time, so you just don't know. It just looks like a random group of people. But sometimes just a group of people together elevates the risk a little bit.
It turns in a second.
Yeah, so it's like, at any point in time, it could be mass attack situation. And it's really interesting. When you saw these guys, Shannon, standing around the car, when you first got out to say, hey, man, can you guys, give me some room here? Did you say the guy pulled the knife out right away, or were you able to just kind of discern something sketchy?
He literally pulled it out right away and started F-U-ing me. And I was like, why you F-U-ing me? What did I do? And then he came forward with the knife, and I'm trying to get away from him. No, it's weird. A lot of times in our classes, we teach people, like,
It's very rare do you get an opportunity to actually get back to your vehicle and get a weapon that's stored there. A lot of times you're just stuck with what you've got on your body.
Yeah.
And I would say most of the time. So you were an even more rare case, because a lot of times you're just stuck. You don't have the opportunity. If the guy would have pulled a gun, there's even less of an opportunity to get back to a car, to get back to somewhere else where the weapon is. And that's why we really, for people who do have the opportunity that can walk around in a lot of different places, stay armed as much as you can where the law allows you to, and don't give up that option.
Right.
If there's a chance to. In your case, there wasn't. You just had to do what you had to do with that gun. But we, like I said earlier when I started out, it never pays to be the nice guy. The people are trying to take advantage of you. And so the other mantra phrase I teach in our classes is this: use the amount of force that you are legally authorized to use at the very second you are authorized to use it.
I say use the amount of force necessary to control the situation.
Yeah, whatever's reasonable. And there's nothing in the law that says you're supposed to work your way up.
No.
And there's also nothing in the law that says you have to use the minimum amount of force.
Right.
It just says you have to use a reasonable amount based on the scenario. And some people.
And here in Arizona, it's again, it's a stand your ground state. So I didn't have to back up. I could have just shot him right away. I backed up 30 yards,
Yep. And you got to, I've talked to, and I've been on scenes, and I've talked to 100 cops who have people pull knives out on them. And you constantly are just sizing up the situation. So it's never a checkbox like, okay, the guy's got a knife. He's within 18 feet. Check. Now I get to shoot the person.
No.
I mean, your brain is taking in so much information. It's taken in distance.
Again, it goes on training. When you pull that weapon, you are responsible for that round. And there's a whole parking lot full of people. There's cars, there's vehicles. There's people with babies. I mean, there's like everybody is there. If I were to miss, you're responsible for that round.
Yep.
And so you got all of that going in your head at the same time. You're like, am I justified to shoot this guy? Yes. He's, am I in danger? Yes. Well, I'm not getting there yet. That's when he's closing the distance. Now we're at 2 feet and he lunges. That's when I felt my life was ended.
And that's what I was going to get to. At some point, there's got to be a change in the scenario. So let's say, Shannon, you were just backing up through the parking lot, like just backing up, and he was walking towards you, and there was this like 5-10 feet distance that kept being maintained the whole time, and you kept backing up, and you backed up for 10 minutes, and finally you just decided, I'm just not going to back up anymore, and you shoot him. And the problem with that is a defense attorney is going to say, what was different? 3 seconds ago, you didn't shoot the guy. Yeah. And then don't let time passing be the only determination for when you shoot. There's got to be something else. In your case, the guy got even closer, lunged at you, and that was the threshold that he crossed. So don't just let this, the passage of time be an indicator for you, because a good attorney is going to say, if it's so dangerous that you had to shoot right now, why didn't you shoot him 1 second ago?
Yeah.
And there better be a reason. There better be something that changed in that scenario.
So question for both of you. We had Victor Avila on a few times. So Victor is one of the 2 cops who was shot up in the Fast and Furious debacle in Mexico. Agent Zapata was his partner, the one who died in his arms. And Victor was shot up extensively as well. It's a miracle that he survived. We worked together on the border 911 project. But when he first brought Trenda Aragua to my attention, Dave, and same for you, Shannon, he said, if you encounter these guys in public, don't get in an argument or a conversation with them. Don't look them in the eye. They go from 0 to 100 instantly. Like if they think that you looked at them funny, there's no argument. They're pulling a weapon and coming after you. And I'm just curious what your comments are. I'm not suggesting that Victor's not correct at all. I'm just curious what both your perspectives are on that. Maybe you first, Shannon, then you, Dave.
Well, for me, I mean, I live here in Arizona, and we're close to the border, and there's all kinds of gang members. There's the cartel. There's, you name it. They're here. I work downtown doing security, and I see it every night. One, you got to be vigilant. You gotta stay armed and ready at all times. And the best way to do that to me is training. You gotta go to the range. You gotta be proficient with that weapon. You gotta know what to do, when to do it. If there's a malfunction, how to clear it, get it ready to go again. And you also got to know when to draw. I mean, just because you have a gun doesn't mean you can pull it out. there's a whole lot of stipulations of when and when you can pull out that weapon. So I think one is you need to be armed at all times for you and for the safety of other people, but you got to know, you got to have the training and know when to pull it out.
Yep. And for a lot of situations, it is confusing for people. They don't train a lot. They haven't really thought about these scenarios, and they find themselves like on the fence a lot. Like, I don't know if I should shoot this person or not. And my first bit of advice is, if you're ever on the fence and you're not quite sure, you don't know 100%, like, should I shoot this person or not? You should be leaning towards not shooting. You don't want to coin flip killing someone.
Yeah.
The other thing is this: there's a formula that I found to be true that works all the time. I've never seen it not be true. And the formula is this: non-compliance, which is a fancy phrase for saying that people are not doing what you tell them to do. Non-compliance equals intent. And so if you're confused or you're not quite sure on a situation, the very first step is give very clear commands. Stop right now, drop the knife, get on the ground, leave me alone, whatever. And then you look for the result, the reaction. And if it's non-compliance, if it is they're not doing what you're telling them to do, then there's only two things going on in the suspect's mind. One is, how do I get out of here? How do I get away? Or how do I get you? And if they're not running away, the only thing that they're thinking about is how to get you. And so in a real quick, short order, I figured this whole situation out that was confusing. Hey, man, drop the knife right now. I'm going to shoot you. Hey, man, screw you, blah, blah, blah. And they're not running off. I promise you, they are just stalling for time to figure out how to get you. And now you've made your decision. You know very clearly that this person is going to try to hurt me horribly or kill me. And that will probably help speed up your decision-making process.
I say the same thing, just like I tell my son about having sex. When in doubt, don't pull it out.
Yeah. Such good advice.
Something I want to jump in on, I think a lot of people don't even really realize is, we're focusing the discussion on the assailant and whatnot. When you stepped out of there, Shannon, there's half a dozen guys or more standing around the back of your car. And when you're looking at, different people that would start that kind of a problem, typically what they're doing is they're trying to get you to focus on the one person with the knife while, other people are trying to get around on your six. Well, and I'm sure that would have run through your mind there.
As soon as the shooting happened and it literally went from here to here, I'm on the phone with 911 and I get a laser pointed at me and I look and it's some Yahoo. He's got his pistol and he's yelling at me to get down on the ground. And it's just, I thought maybe it was his buddies. So right. I was scared. So, I lay down, hands up.
That was after the incident.
Yeah. And I'm on the phone with 911. I'm telling 911, please hurry and call because I got some crazy guy pointing a gun at me, which
Jesus.
He may have came out and saw the end of what happened, didn't see the whole thing. You never know what happened. So I could see why he did it.
But still,
let the police come out and handle it out. The police came and settled it.
During the incident, though, you could have had another guy, one of his mates behind you with the blade, mate, and, that hurts as well.
Yeah. Yep. Maybe, Shannon, you talked about this already, but what kind of gun did you have? And
a Glock 40 using Pilgrim Ammunition.
What kind of sights did you have on it?
Night sights.
Did you see him? Do you remember even looking at him?
Looking at the sights?
Yeah.
No.
Yep. Any type of light, flashlight or anything?
No.
On the gun?
No.
I'm curious. I just like kind of gathering information on that type of stuff and figure out. And I think most people do say they didn't use the sights, or I think sometimes what actually happens is those situations are so dynamic and complex that you might have used them even at a foot or two. You'd be surprised at how many people actually use the sights or the gun, the frame as some sort of framing or sighting system. But people just, there's so much other things to think about. You just don't really remember doing it.
Yeah. I think it comes down to, again, training and just muscle memory. It's just literally here, punch out, come back.
Yeah. I think people would be surprised I think people are surprised at how good the human body is at actually looking at something and pointing at it, and those two things being converging in the same place.
Yeah, right at the same time. Yeah.
Shannon, was there any video from the building or anything? Yeah.
There was surveillance video. And there. I've seen couple of the cell phone camera video. So yeah, there was a surveillance video for sure, and then obviously 100 eyewitnesses testimony.
That's amazing. Our audience has heard me mention the stat before. We're going to mention it because you may not be aware of it, Shannon, but this number never changes by more than 1 or 2%. 70% of Floridians who are killed with a gun who did not commit suicide were shot with their own gun every year.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was an FBI statistic when I was a defensive tactics instructor. I remember they were saying that most police are killed with their own gun as well.
I caught something really briefly before we came on that there was a video on X of some female cop sitting in the car, and the bad guy gets in the car with her, takes her gun away from her, and she's asking him, please don't kill me. And thank God another cop came along and got the guy. I mean, it's hard to get your head wrapped around, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think, again, it's, down to training. I think defensive tactics needs to step up. I think police officers, any law enforcement, even the military, they need different kind of training. I'm a 5th-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I've many MMA fights, Muay Thai kickboxing and karate and wrestling, and I used my weapon. I did not want to go hands-on with a guy with a knife.
Yeah, so it's funny that most people would think, well, how come you didn't? Like you're the, one of the baddest dudes walking the planet. Can't you just take the knife out of the guy's hand?
Yeah, and get killed and get cut. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I mean, what a testimony to how dangerous somebody with a knife is. That somebody who's had more fights on the planet than anybody decided, you know what? I'm not even going to touch this guy.
No.
No, that's a super important distinction for sure, Dave. So, Dave, quick question, especially when you're training the SWAT team guys, how do you get them into an elevated heart rate is there any way to do it without exercising so that they're shooting while they're under stress?
Well, I mean, obviously physical activity is one of the quickest ways, but also the stress level is also elevated without even really doing a lot of physical activity sometimes when you just put pressure on people. And it could be something as simple as a shot timer, that adds mental pressure. We'll also do, and when it comes to the firearms world, we'll do some mental drills where, okay, we've got this course of fire you need to shoot. You're going to have 30 seconds. And here's this number grid over here, just a grid of like 200 numbers randomly on a piece of paper. And you need to search this grid and find these 7 numbers, circle them on the paper, then come over here and shoot this target within 30 seconds. And people the wheels kind of really start coming off like, okay, here's these 2 numbers, but oh man, I can't find the other ones. And they're trying to hurry. And then they may or may not find them all. Then they get to the shooting line and now they're trying to hurry and rush and fumble through things. And so, crushing down the amount of time that people have to accomplish a task adds a lot of stress. And we see, the wrong response is actually hurry up. Even if it seems like it's taken too long, just slowly connecting the dots of the process of what you're supposed to do. That's the best thing, not seeing how fast you can draw a gun from concealment. Can you draw your gun out in a second or less? Well, great. Awesome. If you can, and you'll probably win a bunch of competitions, but there's a good chance in real life, if you're trying to go real fast, you're going to fumble, fall over, things get complicated and they melt down. So we do add stress like that to show people, not to get them really, well, there's a lot of things we do, stress inoculation to get people acting better under stress, but we also want to show people how quickly you can fall apart if you try to rush through things. And so the mental aspect, getting people thinking about different stuff is a great way to add stress to your training as well.
And then maybe you have the instructors screaming in their ear too, come on, let's go. Like,
yeah, have somebody's wife come out and start screaming. That always adds a lot of stress.
Just out of curiosity, Shannon, do you know Tony Blauer?
I've never met him, but I know who he is. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. He's a friend of ours. Dave's become friends with him. First time I introduced Dave to him, Dave interrogated him for about an hour. He actually published another video saying, this is the first time I've ever been interrogated by a cop.
Nice.
It was awesome.
I would just call it a lot of questions, not
nice.
An interrogation.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was good. Definitely. Yeah. Tony's an amazing guy when it comes to the sudden violent stuff and recognizing, the bad things are happening and turning around as fast as you can.
And people need to know it happens in a split second with the blink of an eye. You just mentioned a guy going 0 to 60 and that fast, and that's what happens. You get these knuckleheads out there that they go 0 to 100 in no time flat.
And one of my gut, not a gut reaction, but it's one of my initial questions for Shannon was, when this guy pulled out a knife, one option might have been just go get in the car, shut the door, lock the door. And people might think, well, that's safe. You're in your car and he can't get you. Why'd you have to go to get a gun? And then in reality, what happens is you go to the car, you try to shut the door and you miss the handle and you're trying to get the door shut. And then somebody gets to the door and you're so busy messing with the door, you can't get your gun. Next thing you know, when your door's open, you're getting stabbed in the side. And that's how that works.
That's how that works 100% of the time.
And now so it's like a lot of times there isn't a perfect real solution at the very beginning. It's almost like, school shootings remind me of this a lot. Like, what's the right answer? Do you rush into the school by yourself and kill the bad guy? Probably that's what we do. And if you rush into the school in the classroom and the bad guy, starts killing 15 people when you rushed in, is that your fault? Did you make him kill the person? Everybody's going to blame you from doing the wrong thing, quote unquote. And so in these real life and death situations, it's very difficult to armchair quarterback and say, well, just get in your car,
And another thing is, you never know what you're going to do until you're in that situation.
It might have gotten you killed. And so if it's life and death, that tool sitting right there, that gun is a great equalizer. And maybe you can work your way to a car or work your way to somewhere else or work your way to safety. But when the guy's chasing you down, you got to focus on that. You can't just turn your back and hope nothing happens. So absolutely the right decision, and you never know what that decision is going to be till you get there. It's like on a search warrant. Do you go right through the door or left? There's not a wrong answer. You go the way that you think you need to go.
Right.
So Tuesday, James, John, and I will be training at WAFT, where our families train. So probably the most elite training facility in the world for private individuals. Grant Cardone will rent the property occasionally, and it's like $50,000 for the weekend or $30,000 a day. Private individuals, $3,000 a day. And they've got all kinds of stuff. Like they've got a helicopter pad. They've got different types of shooting ranges. They've got a shoot house where they can take portable walls and mock up your floor plan and show you how to clear your home, those sort of things. But they've got this one building where the floor, it's not spongy soft, but it's definitely softer so that nobody gets hurt. And they drive a minivan in, and there's a mezzanine around the top where everybody who's not participating goes and stands up in the mezzanine, and then they flick the lights out, and it simulates being at a gas station at night. And the way Philip describes it, it's an ink blot. It's different every single time. It'll never be the same ever again. And he's got this whole flashlight training component. It's about 2 hours of training for people. And it's funny that Dave would mention the car door not being locked. So what we observed was a lot of people, they come out of the fake convenience store, and all of a sudden somebody's, harassing them, and to hit them with the flashlight, interrupt their OODA loop, those sort of things, and then see where it goes from there. But a lot of people, if they get away from the assailant and get to their car, I would say at least 50% of them didn't lock the doors. And the bad guy either got in the passenger seat or was able to open the driver's door. That's a really good point, Dave, because Philip Tapino, the guy who owns it, put the train together, really drives that point home. So then it comes back to, you mentioned muscle memory, Shannon. Tony Blauer calls it, what's he called again, Dave? Neural pathways or something, burning neural pathways, I think. Because Shannon, I said to Tony, I said, well, when I played football, if you've seen a play 1,000 times before, you just react automatically. It's muscle memory. He said, there's no such thing as muscle memory. I said, well, and I listened to that, for 4 years, my high school football coach. And I said, well, what do you mean there's no such thing as muscle memory? He says, well, if you got a gun in your right hand and I cut your right arm off, can you shoot me? I'm like, well, no. And he says, well, if the muscles had memory, you'd be able to pull the trigger and shoot me. And so he said, you're burning these neural pathways. But what I'm getting at is, I just wanted to reinforce what you were saying, Shannon, that Tony's whole thing is that you've practiced over and over and over again. The neural pathway's been burned. And his famous adage is weaponize the flinch, right? How many times have people had to train to go like this when something comes flying at them? You don't have to. It's autonomic, right? So his whole thing is really, if you do have to do something like this, how do you go on the offensive right away? You probably got all kinds of stuff on this in MMA fighting, Shannon. Like, just if you don't mind, maybe speak to that for a minute as far as when a guy's coming at you hard in the cage. I would say from a layman's perspective, the worst thing you can do is start backing up and getting on your heels.
Yeah, you pretty much either want to circle or sidestep. That's what I do. If somebody comes at me, it's like a bull and a toro. You step to the side.
Right. Except for when you won the bare knuckle boxing champion and you just ran over and knocked the guy out.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said not when you won the bare knuckle boxing championship and you just ran to the other side of the octagon and knocked the guy out.
Yeah, you can do that too.
It's so funny. It's so funny that Shannon says just sidestep the guy. And when there was I don't know if it was Albuquerque or not. I want to say New Mexico, somewhere out there with you guys in the Southwest. An officer not too long ago went to a call. It was the suspect called in on himself and said there was some guy trespassing outside this property, and he shows up and the suspect pulls out a knife when the officer was about 5 feet away, started charging at him. It was like a 5 or 6 inch fixed blade knife. And the officer's response was, and he didn't have a gun out. He had no clue he was about to be attacked. And his response was to backpedal as fast as he could. And of course, he fell down. And the suspect jumped on top of him and stabbed him in the neck like 20 times and killed him. It was horrible.
Wow.
The body camera footage is just
It's
brutal
horrible.
because you can just see the blood spewing out from this guy's neck, and you can actually hear the blood is flowing so much you can actually hear the blood flowing. It is just disgusting, really. Wow. But the first thing that came into my mind was, man, you get like, how about some lateral movement? Get to the side, get to where, because everybody that starts to back up really quick ends up falling down. And even half the people that we chase on the street that take off running forward quickly fall over. They just get their head gets in front of their feet and they end up falling down. So that lateral movement that you're talking about, just naturally trying to get away from somebody or
mitigate. Step, shuffle step, turn. I mean, you just got to do it. Though you got to practice it.
Yes, that's it.
It's not something you just do. I mean, you got to practice it.
Can't make it up on your own. And I think the phrase I've heard a lot is, mobility equals survivability.
Yes.
If you're stuck, if we're somewhere where you're sitting in a car seat, if you're stuck somewhere where you can't, move, get away, being able to actually move, be on your feet, do, get some distance, distance management. It's like, if there's one thing we harp with our SWAT guys and cops, just like on a mat, distance management, is big time. You can't just stand there 2.5 feet away from somebody. And
you got to be constantly moving.
Yes. Either far enough away to where they can't touch you, or so close that you've got your, mount position, on somebody. That's managing distance. And it's the same way with self-defense. You got to manage that distance to where it's giving you the best chance to survive that. And that distance management has got to be part of something you think about, train with your buddies, with your simunitions. I'm sure you guys do that down at WAF too, but distance typically favors the trained person, especially when it comes to guns, long guns, handguns, whatever. If we can create that distance, we're going to try to do that. Because people who are not trained, and we're talking, you can get 10 feet away, just like you were talking, Shannon, about somebody missing from, or Chris, from somebody missing from 5 feet away. I mean, that's 1.5 yards, So if we can, that's just going to be to our advantage if we can extend that distance just a little bit.
Yeah. Always make space.
Yep.
So no joke. I'm being totally serious here, Shannon. You've got the most MMA fights of any living man, and you don't have cauliflower ears and your nose isn't all twisted up and busted. Oh, you got one that side. Okay. I was going to say, I mean, you don't look like you have the wounds that you would expect from somebody. Good job.
Thanks. Well, yeah. I didn't win them all, but I did win a few.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to bring up your website, Shannon, and shameless plug. Sorry, let me get you on stage here. Shameless plug for Tier 1 Solutions.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Go ahead. Just go ahead and tell our audience what the services are that you provide through Tier 1.
Oh, we do executive protection. We do high-end bodyguard work for celebrities, corporate events, just dignitaries. I was a bodyguard for Sheriff Lamb and for Kerry Lake and, other people like that. And then now we're doing, we do corporate events, apartment complex security. If there's a security need, then we're there. We're armed and unarmed.
Oh, that's awesome. There's our friend, Sheriff Mark Lamb. He's awesome.
That's right.
James, you want to give us a shameless plug for Pilgrim Ammunition before we wrap up here?
Yeah, go and buy it. We've got a deal on at the moment where you buy 4 boxes and you get 1 free. That's going to be going on until the 31st of May. If you listen to the podcast and take it from Shannon, I mean, it's that zero over penetration factor that really is important because, as we've outlined through the podcast, even law enforcement officers that are supposed to be really on with it, they miss. Okay, so unless you're training all the time, you're going to have the thing of missing. But outside of that, if you do hit your target, you're responsible for where it goes. And this stuff is tried, true, and tested by Shannon the Cannon. So it's an unfortunate thing that had to happen, but I'm glad that we were able to, stand up to exactly what it was supposed to do, and we're glad that Shannon's still here.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, I would point out, and Shannon's already alluded to this, we've done a ton of gel block testing. There was a time that James and I went into Volusia Top Gun, and he bought every single 9mm round on the shelf. And the guy who owns Volusia Top Gun's a friend of mine, so he gave us a private range, and we shot every single one with its own fresh gel block. And we had a lab radar with us, which is like a Doppler radar chronograph that measures 5 points. So you can set it whatever you want, right? Like you could set it muzzle velocity, 10 yards, whatever, all the way down to 5 times. Every single round, except for the Norma and the Pilgrim Ammunition, sailed through the gel block and exited over 750 feet per second, which is almost full speed for a typical 45 caliber, 230 grain projectile, right? And this is all 9mm. And when we watched everything in slow motion, the Norma definitely did a better job, not just stopping, but wound channel wise, but nothing compared to the Pilgrim Ammunition wound channel. And, the way I've always put it to people, and you guys are more expert than I am, but if you were to shoot somebody and wing them with regular ammunition here in the pocket of the shoulder, it's probably going to go right through them. But with James's ammo, the hydrostatic shock, it's going to destroy the heart. It's so close to that left ventricle sort of thing. So, Dave, you're up next. Give us a short plug for Righteous Savages. Everybody go, sign up, follow Righteous Savages everywhere, YouTube, Substack. But Dave owns a range as well, Tombstone Range, and it's on this website.
Yeah, jump on there and check out what we're offering for classes. Like I said, we just wrapped up a law enforcement class, a 40-hour basic SWAT class, but we do all kinds of classes for civilians as well. So if you don't get out there, you have to have somebody that's going to get you down the right track to be able to do this. You really can't just make it up on your own. No, Shannon couldn't have become a world champion just by watching YouTube videos, I don't think. Maybe he could have, but you've got to get out there and you got to do that. And for all the people listening to his story about getting in this shootout and killing the bad guy, this is, these things are serious deals. They're not something where we go out and we high five each other later on. And you really don't. The phrase, I won a gunfight, it's really kind of a misnomer, because winning something has the connotation that you got something that you didn't have before. Like we play a game of poker, a hand of poker, and we bet $100 and I win. I got $100 I didn't have before. Mm-hmm. In real life, in a gunfight, you live and the bad guy dies. You don't win. You don't win anything. All you do is keep what you had before, which is your life. So, but congrats, somehow there needs to be an award for that. Shannon's got all these belts and trophies and all this stuff, and probably all he got was a handshake, and he's not expecting to get anything out of something like this, but really good job, brother, on that. And thanks to, as a testament to your training and your devotion, I'm sure the same type of dedication you put into the mat stuff is what you've been putting into the firearms and self-defense stuff too. So I appreciate you out there.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys too. Hey, real quick, where's your Tombstone gun range located?
It is in Southern Illinois, so it's a town called Marion, Illinois.
Marion, Illinois. Okay.
Yep, and it's real easy to get to. It's right off the interstate, and the town's got all kinds of hotels and great places to eat, and it's easy for people to come out and travel there and come and do some cool stuff. We got 82 acres there, and we try and do a little bit of everything. So people can jump on the website. If you live nearby, you can get a membership to the range where you can come out and just shoot every day, and then hopefully jump out and get in on some training classes that we got. We're doing something all the time, and be glad to have you out.
Love it. Love it.
So, Shannon, I've got something for you.
Okay.
Relative to Dave, give me 2 seconds just to get it pulled up on screen here. But this is absolutely awesome. James, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but this is just way too cool. So, of course, Dave was a SWAT team leader. He trains, and he's the only guy that I know that's been hit with a taser and was still able in training to get his gun and get shots off and kill the person who was essentially tasing him. This is a 13-second video, and it's badass.
I don't take that much credit. I knew it was coming, so
Yeah, but still, I mean, most people, they're not going to react that way. That's awesome. I love the intensity, Dave. It's badass.
Yeah.
So last thing that I'll mention tonight is we got a flash sale going on Survival Dispatch Guardian memberships. It's regularly $9.99 a month. It's on for $7.99 a month. It's regular $95 a year. It's on for $75 a year. That gets you access to all of our daily sit rep situation reports. It gets you $370 in Survival Dispatch Insider magazines, and it also gets you an invite to our Signal chat, which is absolutely insane. The volume of intel and information sharing is absolutely just off the chain there. But other than that, man, Shannon, I really appreciate your time coming on.
I appreciate you guys listening to my story. Mainly, I just want to get the story out that, one, you should, obviously the Second Amendment, you should carry a weapon if you can. Number two, train with that weapon, know it inside and out, know what you can do. Number three, have that round, know what that round is going to do, and have faith in that round. And four, man, I did not want to kill this guy, man. It was tough. I still think about it every day. And my heart goes out to his family and to his friends, my family, my friends. And it's not something you want to do, man, but I'm glad I was able to walk away from it.
Spoken like a true champion too. Like, not everybody who wins in athletics has that type of attitude. And actually, we're going to go over a couple minutes here, but I got to ask you guys to weigh in on it, all three of you. So my wife and I trained at WAFT one time. We were guests of Phillips, and one of his firearms instructors was working with us. It was all handguns, and the bullet traps that he has, you can only shoot ball ammo, full metal jack. You can't shoot any hollow points. I haven't shot barely any 9mm since James and I first met a few years ago, and I believe in shooting what you carry. And my right hand, after 2,000 rounds at 9mm in an afternoon, I woke up the next day and my hand hurt from the first time ever in my life from shooting. I'd like to get all three of your opinions for our audience on practicing with your EDC ammunition, and not just going to the range, dumping your EDC, throwing in cheap ball ammo, shooting down range.
I've got a quick little story for you to probably prove that point.
Okay.
I went to shooting a home invasion one night in Carbondale. So as a police, we go there. This guy got home invaded. We took the report. Everybody left. A couple hours later, a group of people is coming back to the victim's home. He sees them coming down the street and doesn't really know who they are. Next thing you know, he hears a knock on the door. He thinks it's the home invaders that are back. So he grabs his Glock 45 cal that's loaded up with Hornady critical defense. Shot one round through the door, didn't even know who was there, hit the suspect through the chest, in the heart, knocked him back on the steps and killed him. On a side note, he killed his own cousin. It wasn't even a bad guy. It was one of his buddies that came to check on him. But we get there. The bullet had gone through the door, through the person, through his heart, out his body, and was laying on the steps behind him. it was like the Kennedy assassination magic bullet. There wasn't a scratch on it. This round did nothing that it was advertised to do. And we see that a lot with ammunition, that you think it's going to do something. Hey, look at this cool picture of this mushroom and all these claws hanging off and all this stuff. But you'd better try this out. You know, make sure it functions through your gun. You know, if you can do some ballistic gel testing, shoot it through windshields, do all that stuff. Figure it out if it really works, because some people just sell the fancy picture, and you have no idea if it's going to do what it's supposed to do or not. Now, this will kill the guy, but the round did not do anything that was advertised like it was supposed to do.
And you know, I teach at the range. Defensive tactics instructor on RSO. I talk to law enforcement, military, everybody, and I met James, and he was telling me about his round. I've shot so many of his rounds downrange. It's what I carry every day, and I did do gel testing, shooting through just everything. We've shot the heck out of that the last couple of years, and that's why I carry his round, because I know exactly what that round's going to do.
Yep, absolutely.
And if the ammo is too expensive for you to train with what you carry, just use the Survival 10, Survival Dispatch 10 discount code, and you'll get yourself a bit of a discount.
Yeah, and just to be clear, James and I have been friends for a few years. I've never charged him anything. He's never paid me anything. We don't get paid. That code just tracks where his purchases are coming from. I don't get an affiliate money. My deal is I want to see James succeed just like everybody else who's in my circle. So
yeah.
Once again, Shannon, I appreciate your time. What a whole situation to go through. I can't imagine, you know, I can imagine waking up in the middle of the night with some element of PTSD, to be honest with you. But I appreciate you sharing the story. Dave, really appreciate your professional insight always. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're glad to be talking to you guys. Nice to meet you, Shannon.
Hey, nice to meet all you guys too, man. Best wishes. And James, we'll talk to you later, bud.
All right. Thanks, James. We'll see you on Tuesday.
All right.
Thanks,
Chris.
gentlemen. See you then.
Have a good night, y'all.